So the greatest thing of having an 8 month, it's actually 10 months now, is that Bobby is, he trains me rather than I train him. So for anyone who's looking to get trained, you can get Bobby. So thank you so much for having me here. I'm not going to talk about exotic use cases like what Shruti talked about. I'm going to talk about a very traditional use case. Pelmorex is the owner of the weather network. So many of us are coming out of a very harsh winter. So hopefully many of you used our apps and websites to get your weather information. We're trying to see that the temperature is just 25 and doesn't change for the rest of the season. So I'm going to talk about media industry and particularly us as an example of how the success and failures we've had in transformation, digital transformation, and walk you through that. So Pelmorex has been around for 30 years. So this is what we were in 1989. We were a TV channel which we acquired from SNC-Lavalin, who had built this weather-based television and felt there was no future in it and decided to sell it off. So our founder bought it, and that's how it literally looked. And all we were offering was, weather information and snippets to users. And if you look at it in 2019, I think we have done well. The results are there. We are Canada's 4th largest digital network in terms of users across desktop and mobile. We are world's number 3 in terms of the weather information services. The number 1 being the weather company in the US owned by IBM, and number 2 is AccuWeather, and number 3 is Pelmorex. We have been ranked time and again by Canadians as being Canada's most influential brand, Canadian brand. So if you take out all the major US brands, the one that Canadians relate to is the weather network, because as we all know, Canadians love to talk about weather. That's our first source of conversation, and weather network enables that. And then in the last couple of years, we've seen rapid growth inside our company and positioning as an AI and data analytics and a tech company. So this sort of shows that we have digitally transformed ourselves from the previous slide, from being a television station to being all over. So we are an app on the phone, we are a powerful website, and in December or in January we hit number 1 on the App Store, and you can see the players we bet to get there. We bet Instagram, we bet a whole lot of top players to get there. Right? So our digital transformation has been, I would say, at least decent. And we also expanded horizontally. So not only we have been a brand in Canada, we also expanded globally. So we are the number 1 player in Spain. We have a leading brand in Latin America. We're the number 1 brand in Portugal for weather. And we also expanded vertically. What that means is we run, a lot of people don't know this, we run Canada's public alerting system. So if your phone buzzes somewhere in the night, it's us waking you up. But it's all for a good cause. So we do a public-private partnership with the government that runs the alerting system. And we also have heavily gone into the data and the AI space and the tech space using our weather and user data. So I told you the story in terms of the brands, but it mostly everyone who is doing digital transformation feels that if they have a presence in digital, they're digitally transformed. But really the numbers should tell you the story. So the numbers tell our story here. We are the number 4 app on the App Store, and the first 3 are Google, Facebook, and Apple. So that's the 4th biggest app that Canadians use. On the website, we have 12 million users on our desktop. We have 9.5 million users on mobile. So we are one of the leading platforms on the web that Canadians use. And then through digital advertising, we see a ton of users and apps that we are able to understand profiles of. And really, in Canada, we lag behind only Google and Facebook in terms of unique users, not in terms of engagement. The weather is a category where you check and leave immediately, but in terms of unique users and people who use the service often, we are next to only Google and Facebook. So to me, this is the slide which kind of tells that we did a good digital transformation, because the numbers here, or the KPI here, tells the story. So what are the lessons that we have learned? So I'll talk about our successes and what got us there, and then a couple of failures as well. I think the most important one takeaway if you want to have as a brand or as a marketer is we have been successful because we always disrupted ourselves. So in 1989, we brought the television station, as I told you. In the 1990s, it was still television, but we were the first ones to look at localized television. What that means is to have a banner, as you see around the television channel, which gives localized weather information. So if you're watching it in Barrie, you see Barrie's weather. If you're watching it in Muskoka, you see Muskoka's weather. And before anyone did it, we cannibalized ourselves. Because there was a lot of debate at that time that we are taking away screen space that is valuable to advertisers for ad spots, but we cannibalized ourselves before anyone did that, and that proved to be tremendously successful because a lot of users sticked on because that piece of information was valuable for their local, wherever they are. In 1998, we went on to launch Canada's first, one of the first websites, a major B2C play. Again, if you think of it now, it's a no-brainer. At that point in time, television was the place where everyone was spending money. Like Timo was saying, that television is a place where brands don't want to spend money now, but at that time, that was the place that people were spending money. So creating a platform where monetization is not clear was a risky decision to do. But again, we disrupted ourselves saying, if we don't do it, someone else will. And it was the same in 2006. So we were the first weather app on BlackBerry. Around this time, I started consulting for the company, and I was one of the guys who was behind our first app on iPhone. So we were the first to go in the market when iPhone launched with the weather app. Again, no one knew how this would play out. No one knew how ad system would work in our platforms, but we were there because we didn't want someone else to disrupt us. And it was the same that we did the first public-private partnership with the government to launch an alerting system. If you look at it, it was almost competitive. We also alert consumers through our apps. So if you provide an alerting service to the government, wouldn't it be competitive? But again, we looked at, if we don't disrupt it, if we don't provide value to consumers, someone else will. Right? So that was the idea behind that. In 2015, we launched apps, TV apps on Apple TV, on Android TV, on Roku. So all of these have our app today. Again, we were disrupting ourselves on over the top before someone else did. And lastly, in 2016 onwards, we are heavily focused on, we are sitting on a wealth of data. We have huge amounts of weather data, we have huge amounts of audience data, and what we saw was, for us to deal with it safely in a privacy safe way, we would have to take the next step to do all the data mining and artificial intelligence around it. So we acquired companies and we built data businesses before someone disrupted in that space as well. So the key thing here is, I think we have survived 30 years and we have digitally transformed, but the main theme being we have disrupted ourselves. Let's look at some failures. The first one is as we try to go global, one of the lessons we learned was we are huge in Canada, but doesn't mean domestic success and you have a value proposition for domestic audience means you will succeed in the international market. So take a look at these two pictures. They're both television, they're both video rather, they're both about weather. One succeeded, one failed. So the top example was our launch in the UK, and we launched video streaming and platforms in the UK providing 24/7 weather. And the second one is in Spain. The difference, they look identical from here. The difference was the second one was built ground up. We actually acquired a company which had built an app in Spain and which knew the local market, which knew what the consumers' needs were, and then launched video on top of it. So they focused in Spain. I mean, Spain is not a country like Canada that it hardly snows. So the main focus was on rain. The main focus was on the beach. The main focus was, what happens during holiday seasons. And these folks have immense knowledge of it through the apps and web. And then we launched a successful TV streaming on top of it. On the top one, we went with our, you can say, arrogance of saying, we know weather, we are from Canada, so we will teach the Londoners about a thing or two about weather. And what we found was they were happy with what they got from BBC. Right? So a lot of them, even though English weather changes a lot, were happy with what they had. So that's one lesson we took away. We still operate in UK, but we have scaled down a lot of the television-related investments that we have. But domestic success definitely is not international success in digital transformation. The second one is traditional media success does not equal digital media success. And I talked to you about the over-the-top. So we were a very successful TV and digital video company. So when Apple TV and Roku and people were streaming Netflix and all that, we thought if we have a 24/7 live stream on them, those who are cutting the cable are going to tune to us. Right? So we went all out. We were the first app on Android TV along with Google in Google I/O, and we went primarily to the US, to a market where the pattern is similar, and had an app with 24/7 live stream on weather. And what we found was there was no usage on a daily basis except when there was active weather. So people tuned in on active weather, but people never tuned on a daily basis. So our streaming costs were extremely high, and we were not monetizing the product. Again, the value proposition on this platform was very different for consumers than a traditional platform. And this is the most interesting one. We saw on our app, and lots of people use our app, and if you see our app store, number one complaint we get is people don't like ads. They don't like ads, turn off ads, and so on. So we launched, we had 7 million over users, we launched this app with $3.99 a year, ad-free. Any guess how many people subscribe to it? No? Less than 100,000. So again, you don't understand things until you test the value proposition. And you have to, that's the learning here, that we assume, like a lot of you, people are complaining about ads, they're going to easily subscribe. $3.99 a year, who won't afford that? But no one did. So again, lessons here are test early, don't assume that value prop will work in every market. So that's one lesson. The second lesson is, build niche and don't innovate on path of giants. So everyone knows, I hope, this the Coyote getting crushed in the Roadrunner. So we went into a similar path, I think around 2007 or so. So at that time, strategically, the next thing the company everyone wanted to do next to weather was traffic. Because everyone checks weather and then they check traffic. Right? So we acquired this company from the Silicon Valley. It was called Beat the Traffic. And way ahead of Waze, way ahead of when Google Maps and things were coming out, they had 1.9 million users in the US using this app every day for planning their daily trips, getting routing. They were also with lots of TV stations providing daily traffic updates, including CP24. So it seemed exactly like a strategic fit, the right digital transformation to do. We acquired them. 3 months from then, Android came out with Google Navigation. Apple came out with Apple Maps. Microsoft got into the space, right? So suddenly our niche became the path of giants, right? And we still saw somebody like a Waze succeeding. So that's the second point I'm making, that it's not just about if you're on the path of giants, it doesn't mean you will get crushed. But Waze had something niche. They had consumers who are giving input to the app, which none of these other players had. Right? So that differentiation helped them succeed.
So all of this is amazing, and I hate to cut you off, but I'm going to give you 30 seconds because we're rabid sports fans, and we have a tiny little panel that's coming.
Okay, so here it is. So the conclusion that I have is disrupt yourself, set goals but measure them accurately. Cool tech is definitely not digital transformation. Timing is important, and value proposition changes globally, and that's the last example we saw, innovate with combination.
Awesome.